So the PTR starts Tuesday, June 25th. It's going to last for 1 week. They already copied your characters to the PTR as of Thursday, so your characters will be there. There are boosts available in the game. The blog and the patch notes are going to be live now, so we'll have to look at those. So about the Infernal Hordes, they start at World Tier 3, which is different than the other season mechanics, because the other season mechanics always started at the beginning of the game. And so actually you're going to have to put in some work to get to World Tier 3, but the leveling experience is like a million times easier now, so it probably won't take people that long to get there. But it's an endgame activity, which is what we have been begging for. The theme is Return to Hell. There's going to be a roguelike wave-based gameplay with 8 levels of difficulty. The highest level of difficulty is going to be monster level between 180 and 200. So the final difficulty should be really, really tough. So there's going to be boons and banes after the different rewards, or after the different levels, excuse me, where you choose some rewards and you choose some things that are going to make it harder as you go through it. The rewards ramp up, and then at the end, you get to choose your reward. So there will be a material that you collect as you go through it, and then there will be different chests that you can open. Some of them will have like the chests of uniques or the chests of legendaries, but it could also be like the chest of gold if you're really low on gold, and maybe we'll get lucky and we will get the chest of resources. They didn't talk about Angel's Breaths, so I'm really wondering if there's going to be a way for us to acquire it from there. I guess we'll find out. There's going to be 50 new uniques and legendaries in the game, which is roughly about 10 per class, which to me, for Season 5 being only a 2-month season, us getting an actual endgame system, which they said, I believe they said it's also going to be available on Eternal, which means that it's going to stay in the game, is that's a pretty massive season to me, if it's fun at all, which we'll find out on Tuesday, for only a 2-month season. So I'm pretty happy with that. They have enabled target farming for uniques and legendary powers. Now you can target farm them in the new endgame activity that they made. You can target farm it with Obols and Helltide and Whispers. You just gamble for the specific thing. You open the specific chest. Now you can target farm stuff. And they have also added target farming for the mythic uniques. So, for example, if you really want a Shaco, you would keep opening the helmet chest and keep gambling for helmets. And let's say your character can only wear Shaco and Andariels out of the choices. If you do get a mythic unique, it's going to be one or the other. So what happens if you gamble for something like, I don't know, gloves that doesn't have an uber unique? You do have a chance to get, I guess they're calling them mythic uniques. You do have a chance to get mythic uniques, but when it drops, it'll be random. So if you're gambling gloves because you really need a unique pair of gloves for your build, but there's no uber unique or mythic unique there, it can still drop, but you'll get a random one. So one major topic here is uniques. That was a huge thing in Season 4, because Blizzard said even before Season 4 started that uniques would probably fall behind the other legendary powers because they don't have tempering. Well, that is what happened. So their team reevaluated the future of uniques, and they want legendary items to have like a journey that you're building up for your build, and uniques to kind of define a build. You find it and you want to go make that build now that you have the unique. And they said that in general, the number of uniques that people were using was between 0 and 2 per build. And they said that was too low, and they want to make it 2 to 4. Honestly, in my opinion, wearing 4 uniques per build is pretty extreme. So I don't know about that, but I do agree with everything else that they said, that uniques they're just behind. So they're going to do a couple of different things to make uniques better. First of all, they're going to try to get rid of generic uniques that are just good for everybody, because uniques that are good for everybody are essentially good for nobody. unless they're super overpowered. This doesn't apply to mythic uniques, though, so Shaco and things like that and Starless Skies will be fine. They're going to boost their upper rolls and give a higher variance in the rolls. That way, finding like a perfect unique is going to be like a big dopamine hit. It's going to feel really good. But the max power of the uniques is going up pretty much across the board. They're also going to change the stats. They're going to simplify them. They might even allow tempering affixes. They're not going to allow you to temper uniques, at least yet. They talked about it. They said maybe in the future, but not now. But when they're redoing the uniques, they might put really powerful tempering affixes on the uniques just naturally. So you can't even brick it. It just comes with the item by default. Another thing that they're thinking about doing is breaking slot restrictions. So a very valuable item, or like if you can only get CDR on like your helmet, for example, they're willing to put it on different item slots to make different build combinations. So a massive overhaul to uniques. Essentially, they're just getting significantly buffed and much more targeted for specific builds, so you feel good when you find them. The mythic uniques finally now have a new UI, like a new in your inventory. They have a new beam. It's purple. It looks awesome. And they have a new sound, which is also pretty incredible. We've been begging for that. It'll be a big dopamine hit when you see that big purple beam. Some general updates are with the Immortal Firebolt Sorcerer. That's stuff like that just breaks the game. So now the cooldowns are going to start after the cooldown ends rather than when you press the skill. This is going to prevent you from getting infinite flame shields, so you have to actually play. Some people are going to be mad about it. It absolutely needs to be changed in the game, so that's a big win for me. They're lowering monster crowd control in the game again significantly. I was one of their biggest opponents of crowd control when the game launched. They made a big pass and they nerfed it. I'm kind of surprised, but they think it needs to be nerfed again. So they're lowering monster CC, and now you can potion while you're CC'd. I wonder if you can use your scroll of escape while you're CC'd as well, but I'm not sure. So class updates. There's going to be full patch notes that we can read through. They said they're making some changes to support Barb, which kind of sounds like a snooze fest. The reason why I'm sure that they did that is because Barb is way too strong. Barbs don't need any buffs, so they threw something in there for support Barb to say that Barbs are getting helped or something, but in general, they don't need anything. Rogue is getting a massive buff to Flurry, which will look pretty strong. That looks good. For Druids, Shepherds, when you have core Rascals, when you have companions get way stronger, it doesn't even make any sense because it was just this generic power that made Druids super strong. It was like mandatory to take. So now Shepherds is going to buff your companions, which is good for companion Druids, but it's also going to nerf Druids, which is kind of funny. Everyone's going to be like, oh my God, they're nerfing like the worst class. But then they said there's going to be tons of buffs to compensate for the Druid. They're just going to bring everything up to for losing that Shepherd's power. So if that's true, then Druids should just be stronger and companion Druids should be buffed. We'll have to see what happens. Sorcerers are getting a godly power. So here's a sorcerer. When you are now going to throw chain lightnings, they're going to bounce around. Then they're going to come back to you and orbit around you. Then they're going to go back out and again, and they're going to orbit around you. They're going to do this until they drain 66 mana. After they drain 66 mana, they're going to explode and blow up everything. And you can throw multiple chain lightnings. So it's like a super ball lightning, but it's like super ball chain lightning. And the developers confirm this on the live stream. You don't really want resource cost reduction. You want the power to be draining your mana. So instead, you need resource generation. You want your resources to just go back to full and it to all get drained to trigger all of these explosions. Another thing is the lightning that is orbiting you does do damage. So if you give a boss a hug, then not only is it going to fly away and hit the boss, but the rings around you are going to hit the boss. So that's the kind of stuff I've been begging for, like these crazy ass uniques. that are going to make builds like this. So that was like a huge win. Another huge win for Necros is the Golem now has a big leap attack. And it looked like the Golem, even when it was behind you, when it would see enemies in front of you, it would go attack them. This is something that I've talked with Blizzard about before. It's like, it's great that you've buffed the minions, and minions are really strong. But one of the biggest problems and most frustrating things is how dumb they are. So it looked like visually this leap attack made the Golem way smarter. So we'll see if that's how it actually turns out. But they seem pretty excited for it, so we'll have to test it out on Tuesday. One quality of life thing. So when you add a Helltide usually impacts 2 zones. Sometimes it impacts 3. And the Tree of Whispers would have like maybe 1 whisper here, 1 whisper here, 1 whisper here. Is like so hard to actually complete the whispers while you're in Helltide. Sounds like from the patch notes, they're consolidating it, and they're just going to put like 10 points worth of whispers in one area. And they said, based on their math, it's going to be about 3 times faster to complete. So you will be able to do your whispers while you do your Helltide, which, remember, now has the target farming. So you're getting the cinders, you open the specific chests, and they can have the mythic uniques. And then you go turn in the Tree of Whispers and you buy the bag again for the target farming. And then you spend the obols for the target farming. And you should be able to get, you know, the key item that you're looking for pretty easily. This is a big quality of life change. Probably the biggest topic right now in Diablo 4 is tempering. And they said that they are okay with an item bricking. That concept is something that Blizzard wants going forward. But the current way that the RNG works is not good. The player has no way to interact with it, no way to manipulate it or change their luck or give themselves a buff, and that's bad. They said they're going to have more updates in the future, but what they're doing for Season 5 is when you get an item, every greater affix stat on the item is going to give you an additional roll up to +3. So that's not going to completely solve everything. They said more is coming in the future. But what it does mean is when you have a really godly item, you will get 3 more chances to not like completely brick it. That should actually make a significant difference. This should help. So whatever, it's fine for now, in my opinion. I'd like to see what other ideas that they have. But at least your best items are going to get 3 more chances. It's better than nothing. The weapon implicits, I don't know if people even pay attention to this, but every weapon has an implicit, like damage to crowd controlled, or damage to distant, or something like that. They have done a pass on all of the weapons, and they have made the stats much more universal. Instead of damage to distant, maybe it's just % damage. Another thing that they're doing is they're opening up weapon types for a lot of other classes. Druids can use polearms and one-handed swords. Sorcerers can use maces now, and one-handed swords now they can use Doombringer, and Necros can use all maces and axes now. For the endgame bossing, Beast in Ice, you don't need to summon him with a Nightmare Dungeon sigil anymore. He has his own place. There's no huge cave to go through to fight him. Varshan only takes 1 mat. He used to take 4. And now you can re-summon the bosses. You kill the boss, the altar respawns, you can just go again. Probably borderline the best change in the entire patch. One interesting thing then from the Q&A was leveling friction is going to be low. So they said that they like the fact that leveling is easy. The whole point is they want you to get to the end game to start having fun. They do recognize that some of the tempering manuals early game are so absurdly powerful that it trivializes a lot of the early game. They said they might bring it down a little bit because people were asking about it. But in general, the leveling experience is not going to have friction. It's going to be pretty easy. That's the whole idea of it. They want you to get to the end game and they want you to have fun there. So that's my 2-page summary on everything that I heard from them. Honestly, I'm pretty excited for Tuesday. My opinion here is for a 2-month patch and for it following up season 4. I think this was maybe one of the only times Blizzard could get away with being a little bit lazy, because they could have just leaned on the fact that the expansion is coming. We already gave you a really good season 4. It's a short season. We don't really have to do anything. It'll be fine. To me, this looks like a full-blooded season with 50 new uniques, and these changes to the game, I think, should make it significantly better. And another thing I should say about Infernal Hordes is when it unlocks in World Tier 3, they said you can use it as XP. And guess who's going to log on the PTR and start leveling up with Nightmare Dungeons versus the Infernal Hordes and test how good the XP is? I mean, we'll see. Who knows? It might get you to 100 even faster, or it might be garbage. Then I'll just cry to Blizzard and tell them that it sucks. Well, overall, I'm very surprised. I'm actually just genuinely surprised with the magnitude of this season. They could have done just pretty much nothing, but they really didn't. This seems like the effort is there. It seems like Diablo 4 might have 2 good ones in a row, which is something that, I mean, we've been begging for.